Russia's new internet law, criminalizing online searches for extremist content, explained. The recent action by the Russian parliament sends a chilling message. Searching for information labeled as extremist online can now lead to penalties. This move, approved swiftly by the upper house on Friday, marks yet another step in the government's ongoing effort to tighten its grip on internet freedom within Russia. Under this new law, anyone found to be purposely seeking out and accessing content officially designated as extremist could face fines reaching up to approximately $64. While that may not sound like a hefty sum, the implications for personal freedom and privacy are far more alarming. Earlier this week, the bill received approval from the lower house, clearing a path for President Vladimir Putin's signature to make it official law. But here's where it gets controversial. The government's definition of what counts as extremist is incredibly broad and vague. It encompasses groups like the Anti-Corruption Foundation, founded by the late opposition figure Alexei Navalny, as well as the so-called international LGBT movement. This sweeping categorization opens the door to targeting a wide range of political dissenters and social activists under the guise of combating extremism. Exactly how authorities will monitor and catch individuals searching for such content remains unclear. Officials claim that ordinary users browsing the internet won't be affected, and that only those intentionally and repeatedly accessing banned materials will face consequences. Yet they have not clarified the mechanisms by which they intend to distinguish between casual browsing and deliberate seeking out of this content. It's worth noting that many Russians have turned to VPN, virtual private network services, to bypass restrictions and access blocked websites. However, regulators have been increasingly cracking down on these tools by employing technologies to analyze internet traffic and block specific VPN protocols, further closing avenues for private and unrestricted internet use. This legislation is part of a broader, more severe clampdown on dissent since Russia's military invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. Since then, there has been a skyrocketing surge in online censorship, as well as prosecutions linked to social media posts and comments deemed problematic by the Kremlin. Numerous independent media outlets and human rights organizations have been shuttered, stigmatized as foreign agents, or declared undesirable, effectively outlawing their operations. Hundreds of activists and critics of the government have been subjected to criminal investigations and charges. And this is the part most people miss. Beyond the legal penalties and censorship lies a profound attempt to reshape the entire online landscape in Russia, turning the internet into a place where fear governs what can be read, shared, or even searched for. These developments raise critical questions about the balance between national security and personal freedoms. How far should a government be allowed to go in restricting access to information? At what point does protecting against extremism become a tool for silencing legitimate opposition and minority voices? What do you think? Is this new law a necessary step to maintain stability? Or is it a dangerous overreach that undermines democratic principles? Share your thoughts and join the conversation below. Russia's internet crackdown, stricter than drug laws. In a shocking turn of events, Russia is set to impose stricter controls on internet usage than those applied to narcotics. Starting September 1st, 2025, Russian citizens will be forced to abandon popular messaging apps WhatsApp and Telegram in favor of a government-created alternative called Max. This move comes alongside a growing list of banned extremist materials online, creating an atmosphere of fear and self-censorship among the populace. Following a meeting with business leaders in May, President Putin released a series of orders on July 16th, including one that mandates additional restrictions on foreign-made software, including communication services. On July 18th, the Russian Duma discussed legislation that would criminalize viewing items listed on the federal list of extremist materials, which currently includes over 5,500 entries ranging from religious texts to hate speech. Both WhatsApp and Telegram, being products of unfriendly foreign countries, are prime targets under these new regulations. WhatsApp, owned by Meta and labeled an extremist organization by the Kremlin, boasts over 90 million users in Russia. Telegram, with a similar user base, serves as a major source of independent news. The Russian government argues that these services must comply with local laws, including sharing user data, a requirement they have so far resisted. To enforce these changes, the Russian government plans to replace WhatsApp and Telegram with Max, a new app developed by VK, a Russian social media company. Launched in June and promoted heavily online, Max currently has 2 million users and will become the default messaging app on all new phones sold in Russia from September 1st. St. Petersburg State University has already adopted Max for official communications. While some users might attempt to circumvent these restrictions using VPNs, only about 50% of Russian internet users have access to VPN technology, and the government is actively blocking and penalizing VPN use. This leaves the majority of the population vulnerable to surveillance and potential legal repercussions for accessing banned content. The most concerning aspect of this legislation is its broad scope and the potential for abuse. The list of banned materials is constantly expanding and could potentially include a wide range of content. Simply viewing such material would be considered a crime, a stark departure from Article 29 of the Russian Constitution, which guarantees freedom of information and prohibits censorship. Political scientist Ekaterina Shulman has pointed out that these new internet restrictions are more severe than those applied to narcotics, where only possession and sale are illegal, not use. This comparison highlights the Russian state's view of uncensored information as a greater threat than illicit drugs. Initially, the penalties for viewing banned content are relatively mild, with fines ranging from 3,000 to 5,500 rubles, about 33 euro to 60 euros. However, there is no legal barrier to increasing these fines or introducing jail time in the future. The vague nature of the legislation raises further concerns about its implementation. It is unclear how citizens are expected to keep track of the ever-changing list of banned materials. Some lawmakers have suggested that the law will only target those with malicious intent, but distinguishing between genuine curiosity and criminal activity could prove challenging. Journalist Mikhail Fishman predicts that these measures will instill a pervasive fear among the Russian public, discouraging them from using VPNs or exploring controversial topics online. This self-censorship could ultimately have a more chilling effect on free expression than any official censorship. As Russia moved forward with these draconian internet controls, the international community watches with concern. The future of free information and expression in Russia hangs in the balance as citizens face an increasingly restrictive online environment.